Healthcare is one thing the US is known for not being good at. The US is known for having one of the worst healthcare systems in the modern world. This is for many reasons we will go through in today's video. Healthcare is a very difficult thing for the United States to deal with. While we did get a little better after Obamacare, no one would say that it really made the healthcare system good. Plus, there was Paul Ryan's attempt to make the U.S. healthcare system worse with the American Healthcare Act, as well as Donald Trump's attempt to repeal Obamacare, which would suck, even though Obamacare really only barely improved our healthcare system. Okay, the world just sucks. Now, there are three different options a government has when it comes to giving healthcare to its citizens. The first is universal healthcare, which is where the government gives you healthcare and private insurance is not a thing. The second type is a public option, which means the government will give you healthcare. However, you can get insurance from private companies, but it's not required. The third type is capitalist healthcare, meaning that in most cases, if you want healthcare, you have to buy from private insurance. Only one first world nation uses the third type of healthcare, and that is the United States. Due to that, in the US, 48 million people do not have health insurance. Meanwhile, in every other first world nation, that number is 0. This also means that in the US, people die due to a lack of health care in numbers up to 45,000 a year. Meanwhile, in every other modern nation, that number is still 0. Makes you think, having anyone die from lack of health care or having no one die from lack of health care? Which one is truly better? Of course, there are people who are against having a universal healthcare system in the US, because I guess the fact it has worked for every other modern nation and caused people to live up to 7 years longer isn't enough. Asking who's going to pay for it when every other modern nation could tell you how taxes work. Granted, it does cost less in those countries, because over there, government is allowed to negotiate costs, making it cheaper to pay as opposed to the US, where companies can charge whatever they want. Then, when Bernie Sanders proposed a bill that would import drugs from Canada, a place where they're cheaper, people like Cory Booker said things like, "They're unsafe," even though Canada has stricter regulations for drugs than the US. Of course, the real reason why Booker said that was because he was bought and sold by healthcare companies, which aren't a thing in almost every other modern nation. But remember, guys, Cory Booker is a progressive. Please stop laughing. As for how to fix the healthcare system in the US, I know of many ways, one of which would be having at least a public option. And I don't mean any of this individual mandate thing. I mean, you should at least have the option to get healthcare free of cost from the government. So that way, if you're too poor to afford healthcare, you won't have to go to for-profit corporations that will always take the cheapest option no matter what. This will also make companies act better, because now you wouldn't have to deal with them or not have health care. Now you can get better coverage because they will have to be in your favor, because now they are not your only means of getting health care. Don't get me wrong, I would be in favor of a complete single-payer healthcare plan. However, I do feel that companies should still exist, but they shouldn't be the only option, similar to how there are public and private schools. I would do the same thing with healthcare. However, no matter how you look at it, the United States healthcare system is very broken, and has been for years. However, hopefully it won't be that way forever. Also, while I was writing this script, the Trump healthcare plan I mentioned earlier ended up being passed in the House and could become law very soon. So, like I said before, the world just sucks. Good night!